I don't see any reason why Angela should be suspicious of Michael or his behavior.
I've had enough. I've just had enough.
But a concern that I have is how adamant she is about wanting to find a lie or something wrong in the report. It's almost like she's not willing to accept the truth.
I don't care what y'all think about me because I know the real mother.
There is nothing I loved more than seeing a tyrant get humiliated on stage. Michael Hive, our time has come. Let's get into the tell-all part 3. Hi guys, welcome back to Nikki Faces Reality. We're here to discuss 90 Day Fiancé Happily Ever After. We are in part 3 of the 5-part tell-all. I feel like I'm going to be yapping for a long time, so let's just get straight into it. Before we do, as always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's finish off Michael and Angela, shall we? As always, if you don't have the capacity to intake this, please do skip ahead. I am going to add timestamps. But yeah. So we jump straight in to when Angela is berating Michael in front of Skyla and everyone else. And he's just like, if you're so unhappy, send me back home. Send me back home. And she's like, that's the last time you'll say that. And it's funny that when he says it, it's a problem. But there's no problem with her dangling his freedom, right? God forbid this man asserts himself, okay? And she's going on and on about how he's a constant liar. And it doesn't help that Skyla is adding to the chorus of this mess. Skyla's like, you're always lying. And then when you get called out on it, you stick to the lie like you're making everyone believe it. And my thing is, Michael could very much be a liar, right? But he could also be saying the truth. If he keeps repeating the same thing, there is a reality where he's repeating it because that is his truth. She's talking about him lying about mopping the floor. What does that have to do with their relationship? Skyla must be drinking the same Kool-Aid as her mom because they're trying to make him look bad, but what's coming across for me is that Michael is living under a microscope, and that is not the way that I'd want to live. Like, he's living in a house where everyone is against him. He's living with a bunch of mini Angelas. The kids, her daughters. No wonder he ran away a few days after this. But at the root of this particular segment, Angela is hurting because the things that she heard in that recording are damning. It is awful. I am against cheating, but you also made the decision to stay with him. And when you choose to stay with someone after they've cheated on you, you are choosing to forgive, you are choosing to move forward with your relationship, but she isn't. I'm not someone that can get past cheating, so I'm not going to pretend that I can. Angela clearly is not someone that can do that, yet she's forcing it only to punish him every single day. And I'm not saying that you're supposed to get over it overnight, but there is a process to go through, right? And I don't think Angela has really gone through the process of getting over it and healing, and that takes teamwork, and it's hard to do that when you don't let your partner speak. And I think that's also part of Michael's qualm with all of this. He's like, how can we move forward if you keep constantly bringing us back to this event? He shouldn't have cheated. If she couldn't move on, she shouldn't have forgave him. We're at a crossroads. However, I want to be very clear that we can call out Michael for his wrongs and also advocate for his safety. Because that message that he told that woman was something. So as you guys recall, there was a blogger who was friends with Angela who we saw in the 4-hour debacle when Michael disappeared. He actually revealed that he was the one that sent Angela those recordings of Michael telling this woman in America that he loves her and that he's going to come to America, handle Angela, set his affairs in order, and then go to her. I wouldn't have been able to get past that. I would have canceled his visa application. There were so many opportunities after she heard that recording to be like, oh, you're not going to make a fool out of me. It's done. At every step that you forgave him, you were saying, I don't care about said event. But obviously she does. So she's obviously going off on stage because this is an open wound and it is infected, okay? And so this moment for me, it's not funny, but it's funny because Michael is like, You keep calling me a liar. I'm not a liar. But also, I did lie in that recording because if I meant what I said to that girl, I wouldn't be here. Angela's like, you liar. And she just gets up at this point and is wailing at him in front of everybody. What is clear from this moment is that this is the most that they've talked about this since he's been here. And I think that that's part because he feels empowered that everyone else is around. But also, I don't trust that she wouldn't put her paws on him behind closed doors. So that's also part of the reason. He doesn't say anything at home for self-preservation. But she's, riled up and she's like, you see, when he's at home, he just stays in the couch. I'm the only one working on this marriage. She makes this whole spin that he's given up on it. And it's like, look at the material that he's working with. Also, her saying that all he does is sit on the couch. Michael can't work. I'm sure that he would want to bring in money. But it's not convenient, right? Because you haven't signed up for his green card, because you don't want him to have independence. Without independence, he can't work. He's miserable in your house because you're constantly yelling at him. Your daughters are berating him. These little kids are your mini-me's. Like, this is not, like if I were him, I too would be numb on the couch. And she brings up that he's constantly asking for her to do the paperwork for the green card. And of course, she's like, oh, that's all you want. But it's like, you brought him here. He's defenseless. He can't do anything for himself. I think it's cruel to bring someone and not see it all the way through. You should have just left him over there, right? We've had the same conversation with Jasmine and Gino. You brought them here. You brought them here with this promise of this new life. And then they're going to be your prisoner and your do boy to just do your chores and take care of your million grandchildren. That's not right. I love that Sean is like, I hear you, Angela, but let's be real. Things have been bad way before he got here. Why do you think that is? And Angela pulls her favorite move, where she blames every single flaw of hers, every insecurity on Michael. This sack of skin puts her lips together to say that she gets Botox. It's not for beauty like everyone thinks. No one thought that. She gets it because she doesn't want him to just be with she doesn't want him to be with a wrinkly woman. She does it for him. Girl, get a refund. That's one. The fact that you feel rotten is your business. Do you guys remember when she was going through the weight loss surgery and she couldn't stop smoking? And she's been smoking for decades, but she decides that in that moment, because she can't have self-control, it's Michael's fault. Do you guys remember that? She is so embarrassing. And what's funny is that she says that she's doing this for Michael. You know what you could do for Michael? You could stop spending the money that you're making together. Stop holding it over his head. Stop using it on your useless surgeries because they're useless. If you see her all over TikTok, all over her Instagram, she has a freaking filter. That woman doesn't know what her reflection looks like. She's running from it. Transfer him the money. Do the paperwork. Or for free, stop yelling at him. But Botox? Be effing for real. Finally, this episode, I feel like Sean is like, this is why they pay me the big bucks, because she's actually speaking up. She's like, but Angela, things have been bad for a minute. Why did you bring him here? Great question, Sean. Great question. And she's like, because I love him, because I'm stupid and I love him. Ma'am, you are not a martyr. Please do not. She's really milking this moment and she's like, I really hate myself. I did this because I hate myself. And it's like, we know you hate yourself. We can tell, but you also are spreading that venom that you feel for yourself to everyone else around you, and it's not okay. You're causing so much harm that it's hard to ever feel bad for you. So Skyla in this moment backs up her mom and she's like, well, she feels that way because he hasn't cleared up any of the things that happened while they were in Ivory Coast. And I thought that he did, but in this household, they love to hold a grudge, and so they play back the scenes from Ivory Coast, particularly when she found out about Paradise Men. Sean, of course, asks him why he was on that group. He explains again that he was on there for community. He had failed the visa process twice. He didn't want to fail again. He was desperate, and so he just wanted answers. He wanted a different avenue to get research, to get resources, to make this work. And I love that Thais and Sophie both spoke up, that they were in similar groups. I'm happy that they spoke up because it's very easy to villainize Michael. And so I'm happy that they represented just how common it is. Like, people need community. And Patrick, spoke up. He was like, when I first saw it, I thought that it was shady, but she explained it. And of course, Angela took that and was like, well, you see, she explained it to you. Michael doesn't explain anything to me. How was he supposed to explain anything when the minute he says the incorrect word, you jump at him? When was he supposed to explain that to you? And he tried on camera. He says that he's tried in private, and she just doesn't let him finish. The time has come for Sean to finally force Angela to admit to Michael that she got a private investigator. Personally, if you have all these doubts, I think that she should have done this before they went through with the visa. I think to do it after is just, why cause yourself that kind of pain, that kind of inconvenience? It's already here. You've chosen to live in delusional land. At this point, stay there. Personal opinion. But they bring him out. Michael looks surprised, which I don't know how he's surprised. She apparently hasn't spoken to the PI, and so the PI is going to reveal everything on stage. They bring the man out, and he chooses to sit next to Michael. I thought it was bold that he sat next to Michael. I mean, granted, Michael is not a violent person, but just imagine being like, yeah, I invaded your privacy and looked at every single message you've ever sent and looked into every single person you've ever interacted with. I would want to throw hands personally. I was like, okay. And the PI comes and he's ready for the camera, okay? He's milking this moment. He says that he's looked into Michael. It took about 5 different investigators. They have 189 pages of data. He's looked into everything. Instead of just diving into the info, he's like, I have some questions for you, Michael. And I'm like, what questions could you possibly have if you've been so thorough? That's one. But he proceeds to ask Michael if there's anything that he wants to share before he reveals his findings. And it feels a lot like when your parents have caught you in a lie and they're giving you the opportunity to tell the truth. And usually this is the moment where you lie again and you get in double the trouble. So I'm worried for Michael, but I'm like, Michael, I'm a little worried for Michael in this moment. One, because I'm hoping that he's not lying about anything, but also that it doesn't matter if he doesn't lie or not, because Angela loves to just make a small thing the biggest thing ever. But she's still, being dramatic in the corner, being like, I'm scared of what's gonna come out. I hope he proves me wrong. I hope he proves me wrong. Right? But Michael says he has nothing to hide. Proceed. So the first thing that the PI asks is if Michael has any socials. Michael says that he has a Facebook that's actually ran by Angela. Okay? Then the PI asks if he has Instagrams. And Michael's like, I don't have an Instagram. The PI said 3 accounts came up. And Angela's like, y'all are public figures. Michael has a fake account pop up like every other week. This storyline is old. Whatever. But Michael clings to that. He's like, no, there's fake accounts that come up all the time. I don't have an Instagram.
When I try to explain to my wife, she never give me a chance to finish talking.
Michael has got a way to make even you believe him.
Everybody can't believe your opinion, for Christ's sake.
We're going to go on facts and opinions.
Bring it on.
He's such a liar.
So Sean asks the PI if he has any reason to believe that Michael has been unfaithful to Angela. And the PI takes the longest to answer, but he's like, I'm not sure, but there's a woman that you've been in contact with. And they say the name, but they blurb it out. And Michael's like, that's a family friend. That's no one. PI doesn't say that he found anything suspect in their interactions, just that they've been in contact before. And it's like, If you found nothing damning, why bring it up? Like, that's just messy, you know? If he was cheating, there would be direct evidence to find. So remember, the cast is all listening to this, and they've all seen how Angela has just been at Michael's throat, and Jasmine is like, see, like if he was cheating, there would be a thread to find. And at this point, Angela gets up to like talk to Jasmine, and Jasmine's like, don't get too close to me. Like, don't do that. Because Angela's coming at her, and Angela's like, you don't know the truth. You don't know him like I know him. The girl that he was cheating on me with, she had reached out to Gino. I didn't want to say anything. Then why say it? Because Gino apparently didn't even answer this girl's message. Just because the girl tried to come at Gino, Gino and her never had an interaction. So why would that be any of Jasmine's business? But she wants to be messy. She is literally grasping at scraps. Finally, this long-winded PI is like, no, I found no evidence that Michael is cheating.
Is there anything about this woman that has raised a red flag? Does anything tell you that Michael is cheating on Angela in any way?
I've got 160 pages of reports. To answer your question directly, no, there's not.
And everyone's like, oh, you see? And this senile woman, because at this point, I think that Angela needs to be put in a home because I don't think she's well in the brain. And I think she's at that age. She's like, I don't care. I don't care.
I don't care. I don't care. You said talk. What did you even dare do? So tell me then.
I have people, I've met
Skylar,
people.
we're going home. Y'all enjoy.
You guys don't know him like I know him. I know that he's lying. And Rob is like, wait, so you were here saying that the PI is going to determine how you move forward with Michael. And now you're saying that the PI doesn't know what he's doing? That you know better than the PI? And I love that everyone can see that she's fabricated this entire web of drama. Your husband hasn't been cheating on you past that incident. And I know that cheating is hard to overcome. But if you were to get those answers, now the healing can begin. There can be a way for you guys to restore your relationship now that that seed of doubt has been confirmed, that it's just in your head. She is angry because now everyone can see this for what it is. There is no validation for the way that she's been yelling at him. So she gets off the stage, runs off. Skyla attempts to run after her, but they call her back in because somebody has to deal with the aftermath. And so Sean is like, your mom said that she would be able to trust him when she got the answers from the PI. And Skyla, you can tell, looks embarrassed. And she's confronted with this, and she's like, you're right. Like, I do believe now that we have the answers, that mama should trust him. But at the same time, I also think that they shouldn't be together because there is no love anymore. Like, there's no intimacy between them. There's no closeness. And I love that everyone calls it out like, well, how do you expect there to be closeness when your mom literally treats him like he's less than a dog? And Skyla, again, is left to deal with the consequences of her mother's actions. She's like, yeah, she has no patience when it comes to her feelings. You're right. And you could see her getting all choked up because she's dragged into her mother's embarrassing ass plot. Ashley asks the PI one more question. She's like, is there evidence of Michael scamming Angela? And I love that in this moment, the PI let go of the cameras and look directly at Skyla because this is a family issue. And he's like, look at all the work that I've done. I've been thorough. There has been no hint, no thread, no nothing that Michael has been scamming your mother.
Skyla, you've met me. We talked, right? That's a lot of work. That's a lot of digging. That's pretty much his life that I've been able to uncover. I don't have anything.
Man.
Okay.
There we go.
I don't have anything concrete that suggests, even implies that he is, an unethical person in terms of relationship.
And Rob and Jasmine are advocating for Michael, and they look at Skyla and they're like, you are also part of the committee that is constantly pointing the finger at Michael. You need to put yourself in his shoes, that he's in a house where everyone is constantly blaming him for something that he's not doing. Can you imagine how that feels? Like, you're also part of the problem. And I love that they addressed it, because I understand her having her mama's back, but you're also being a bully along with your mother. Michael looks relieved, but also in distress, because he can see that while he's been vindicated to the public, it doesn't mean anything in his marriage. But in wrapping up their section, I want to be clear that I do believe Michael was here for the visa. And I think that Angela knew that. I think that their relationship has always been transactional. He comes here for the visa. She gets to be with a hot young guy and also get a bunch of money from the network because he is what made her be on the show. And I think that somewhere along the way, they lost sight of the plot. This was always transactional. So her making it seem like he's been deceiving her when this was always the premise of their relationship is an issue. And she's been dragging his name through the mud, and this is again the first time that he's been able to really advocate for himself and have other people see the abuse firsthand and stand up for him. And it's no surprise to me that he ran away a few days after this. And I love that it ends with the PI being like, she's adamant to believe her own conclusions. When I've given her all this material, he seemed a little disturbed at his client, and yeah, welcome. Anyway, let's move on to the next couple, Patrick and Thais. So they start off their segment revealing that she got a boob job, kind of like a mommy makeover. She was feeling like not herself after breastfeeding, and that leads Sean to be like, so does that mean that you're done with breastfeeding? You're done with children altogether? And she's like, I don't know. And Patrick is like, no, I want more kids. So she says that she's not ready, and baby Elise, she's like under 2 years old. She's a tiny little babe. Thais is like, I really would rather wait. Patrick apparently wants to have kids now. When they ask him how many he wants, he's like, however many it takes to get to the boy. I think that's his own daddy issues creeping in. But yeah, he wants them stat. Thais is like, I understand. However, I don't know if I want kids because I don't really have support here. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All of her family is in Brazil. She had a really lonely pregnancy. She doesn't want to go through that again. And I completely understand that. Patrick says that he understands that she needs time, but she's like, you lay it on thick. You make it very clear that you want one immediately. And, they make it seem like it's going to be a big issue with them. I think that they'll figure it out. They go into like this bit of like, she, aside from her having her community in Brazil, Patrick also works a lot. He travels a lot for work. And this leads us to like a weird conversation about whether or not you should share your location with your partner. Thais says that, they live in Miami now, which I know Miami sounds like a lot of temptation for some people. And she says that she has his location because sometimes he'll say that he's like one place and then she'll see that he's at a club and she's like, how did that happen? It leads Sean to be like, when people share their location, it usually says certain things about their relationship. I think that people share their location for all types of reasons. I think that if you're constantly clocking where I'm at, there's an issue. But I personally share my location with my friends for safety. I don't know if I'd be so willing to do that with a partner right off the bat. I know it's controversial. I would love to know what you guys think about that. Are you pro sharing location? Are you completely against it? Do you have a hard boundary with that? Let me know. But the main event is John. Because you guys know, Patrick and Thais love to just push all their problems on John. He's the culprit. So they bring him out and he's like running out. And Thais is already so annoyed at his presence. And I'm just like, let it go, Elsa. They rehashed the whole drama that happened in Brazil where Thais' friend came in with all this animosity against Patrick and then against John, and John ended up calling her SLUT. And you guys, I have to say, I have a love-hate relationship with Thais as a character on this show because I think that she could be very sweet and I love that she can be headstrong, but I also I dislike her kind of like stuck up nature. She acts like she does think that she's better than John, like she looks down on him. And her friend had that same stank attitude. And so when they're talking about this at the tell-all, Thais is still with the same stance that John was in the wrong, but John is not going to back down, and he was targeted for no reason. This was supposed to be a nice hangout, but your friend came in accusing Patrick of cheating, and then all of a sudden saying that John is an enabler and all this mess. And I love that Kobe was like, Thais, that wasn't fair to John because this girl didn't know him. And she came at him with all of this. And it's all the things that you fed her. She came in charged with the information that you gave her about John. So, like, really, you triggered this mess. And I love that he said that because it's true. John didn't have the opportunity to prove himself. And the reoccurring thing is that they are like oil and water. They just don't mix. And I think, he's willing to just be distant and be cordial. I think that she like makes it very obvious that she has like this disdain for him. She starts talking about how she just feels like he doesn't respect her. And I could see how she would interpret his like Bostonian directness as like him being rude or being like too loud. Like I can understand that. But that's not where he's coming from. And I think that she's been around him long enough to like, I think, be able to see the difference. But in turn, John could also soften up his approach when he's talking to her because she's not from here. And so Thais' big thing is that John comes in and doesn't really talk to her, but they don't get along. So John says that his way of showing respect is by just steering clear from her. And I thought that was hilarious and also petty. But I get it. We've seen it on the show that Thais has a hard time seeing the good in John. And when someone doesn't like you, there is nothing you can do to change their mind. So I can see how he's like, I'm going to steer clear of any interaction with you. So he's probably like, if I keep our interactions at a minimum, that's safe. I think that they both are grown-ups and should be far more amicable than this. Also, the center of their universe is Patrick. And that's uncomfortable for everybody because they're constantly going to be in situations where they have to be together and they're constantly getting checks from TLC as a trio. You need to work this out. But at the core, Thais is pressed that Patrick just doesn't have her back. And I agree that the default should be you have your wife's back always. And even when she's wrong, then you correct her in private. I feel like I would do that with my friendships. I would do it with family. You never call out your peoples in front of other people. You do it privately. But I think that if he had her back more, just like to the public, the moments that he would call her out when she's in the wrong in a situation with John, it wouldn't be so hurtful. But because he's always just playing Switzerland, it hurts her. Because his approach is, well, if I don't stand up for anyone, I'm not making anyone feel bad. But she's interpreting that as, wow, like you're so pressed to not hurt anyone's feelings that you don't mind disappointing me. And that, I feel for her in that. And she starts crying, and I do feel for her because the last thing you want to feel is that your partner, your husband, the father of your child, literally will just leave you out to dry to fend for yourself. And it kind of is what he does when it comes to John and Thais. He literally just stays there silently. And I love that Sean called it out. She was like, Patrick, you're not going to say anything? Like, you're just there? But he really just hates confrontation. And we've seen it, particularly with his dad this season. But yeah, Thais is still crying and she's like, I feel like John treats me like I'm just Patrick's chick and not his wife. But I'm also like, you gotta show niceness to get niceness. I feel like he's been burned a few times with your hostility. Like, I get it. I get why he's just distant from you. And I think that they both need to reciprocate respect. They honestly need to start over because there's just so much like pent up animosity and hostility between them. And they do need to remove Patrick from it. I do believe that Patrick needs to advocate for each of them, but this also needs to be a situation where they solve it between them without Patrick, because God forbid something happens to Patrick. John is Thais' family, and Thais is John's family. They need to work it out. They end their segment with revealing that she did get her green card and that now she'll be able to travel to Brazil and see her loved ones without Patrick. They do mention that in the future they are considering moving to Brazil. Patrick is definitely looking forward to it because he's like, oh, well, if you have your peoples, you'll pull out a bunch of kids for me. So there's that. Let's move on to the next couple, Rob and Sophie. Oh my God, you guys. I was rolling my eyes so hard in this segment. Sean is like, we saw you break up. What's your status today? And they're like, well, we're not together. We're separated. We're hanging out.
You want to answer that?
You answer.
We're not together.
You are separated.
Yeah. But
we're hanging out.
Oh.
Are you not ashamed of yourself? Are you not embarrassed? This is really embarrassing.
Sophie is still living with Kay. Rob moved to Texas because he thought that this would be like a clean slate for them. Clearly it has failed, so Rob is actually going to move back to LA. They ask Sophie, well, are you going to follow your husband to LA? And she's like, I don't know. This marriage is over. I'm going to keep saying that a few times in the segment. What are we doing here? It's just so frustrating because he is a turd, but she makes him look good because she's so immature. You know what I mean? Rob is like, I feel like I'm a husband that's been put in the friend zone, which is crazy. Sophie's like, I think that we have different love languages. And that's a valid thing. People have different love languages. That's why you work at things, preferably before you're married. But I would imagine that if you're married and those things are coming up, the stakes are higher. You want to stay married. You want to make this work. That's when you do that under the same roof. That's when you get counseling. That's when you find avenues to help each other learn each other. But instead, she's living with her girlfriend. So along with the love language thing, she says that she needs affirmation. She needs constant affirmation. And part of it, I understand, like you do want your partner to speak love into you and to, remind you of the things that they love about you. But there's also part of it that you have to do for yourself. Someone can't fill your cup all the way if you already feel like ish about yourself. And so they recount the time where she comes to the house and she thinks that he has left her a love letter and it's a chore list. And Rob is like, it was a chore list of things to do for you, not for me, to clean up after yourself. Because Sophie is crusty and doesn't clean up after herself, and it goes as far as that she doesn't flush the toilet. I've heard people not flush the toilet at night, not to bother people. I think that is so nasty. Whether it's poop, whether it's pee, that aroma is gonna stay in the bathroom. Flush the toilet. Close the door of the room that you're exiting. Close the door of the bathroom. That's gonna muffle the sound. I need you to flush the toilet. That is so crusty. I don't think that my ego could ever recover if my husband is like, wow, you're so dusty and crusty that I have to make you a list so that you can clean up after yourself. I don't think I could ever recover. Ashley, of course, is like, listen, we keep hearing that you left, but why?
Why do you think you guys broke up? I feel like I haven't actually heard a reason why.
And why are we still broke up? End of the day, I've done everything that you've asked me to do, and then you have continually moved the goalpost.
You're either delusional or you're lying, and I think you're just delusional.
Rob says, he's like, I keep doing everything that you said that I need to do, and you keep moving the goalpost. And again, I've said it, Rob is no peach, but he's also willing to do the work with you, and you are constantly being like, you need to do this, you need to show me you changed. not taking any accountability for herself, and also how can you really see the changes if you're not under the same roof with your spouse? Their relationship is such a joke, and everyone is calling it out, and everyone is saying you're not going to figure this out while being apart. And so the theme of the tell-all, I guess, is to be super invasive about everybody's schmeck's life, because they immediately touch on the fact that they haven't been intimate in months. I mean, by now it's probably like a year. But they play the scene where Sophie is talking about their lack of intimacy to Kay. You guys, this is the scene that she admits to Kay that she's been with women before, but she purposely hasn't told Rob. And Rob, I don't think, catches it until someone says it back to him. And you could see the realization hit him. Like, no, she didn't tell me that. And he's asked her before. And her sneaky ass says that he's asked her if she's ever dated women, but he never asked her if she's ever slept with women.
I've never heard her actually say that she has. And I asked her if she had, and she said she hadn't.
When I came out, I was bi. He said, have you ever been with a woman? I said, I've never dated a woman. That was my exact response.
Did you tell him that you've had sex with women before?
I didn't say I had sex with women. I thought that would be the follow-up question, but he just kind of brushed it off. So
you worked around it.
Don't you think that's dishonest? Don't you think you're evading the question?
He's never brought up the fact that I'm bi ever in a whole marriage. It's not been an issue.
Ma'am, he's saying that he did ask you, but also, even if he didn't, you're the main one constantly being like, Rob, don't lie to me, Rob. Be transparent, Rob. Yeah, but every time you get caught for being a liar, you get caught for omitting details, he's just supposed to get over it. He's not allowed to process. He's not allowed to run away for 3 business days like you do. Immature. And again, he says that he has asked her and she has been dishonest. And because she, of course, cannot take the blame, she diverts it to the things that he has done, which is not the topic at hand.
Sophie has a way of making herself make perfect sense at my disposal.
No, I was depressed. Very depressed because of this man. And it's like, I love him, but he really makes me feel bad about myself. You can't have sex with your wife unless she's dressed up. How do you think that makes me feel? He wants me to be someone else.
We both know that is not true.
No, I'm sorry for not expressing it was more than emotional with girls when I was 18 years old. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm not making it a big... I just heard it for the first time.
That's not even the issue, and I feel like that's becoming an issue. I don't see...
I want to be clear. No one is saying Robert is innocent, but she's not innocent either. And that's the point that I feel like needs to be driven home. There is no innocent party in this relationship. So they bring out Kay, and Kay is like, we have been working at this, and he hasn't changed. And she catches herself when she says the we. And I'm like, no, stick to the we, because you're right. You've been in their relationship. You've caused the wedge to be wider between them. We know, we've seen that Sophie can't really think for herself. She's nothing but a mouthpiece for her mother and for Kay. So it's fitting that they brought her out.
For how many months? Or I say we, but they've been trying.
That's interesting that you said we've been trying for, okay.
She's like my best friend.
They catch just how passionate she is about the situation. And they ask her, are you in love with Sophie? And she's like, no, there's a misconception that I'm bisexual and in love with my friend, but I'm strictly straight. I'm just an empath, so I feel everything that my friend feels. People have taken the word empath and have dragged it. Be effing for real. I feel like Sophie doesn't have boundaries and Kay oversteps like a mofo, and we have this. And in this moment, Rob doesn't discredit Sophie. He's like, I understand why she has felt the way she feels, but I think that she's taking the easy way out by just moving out and still holding on to me instead of working at this. And I would say that they're both holding on to each other and are both so unhappy, so why do it? But then they show the clip from his birthday. And when that episode came out, I told you guys, they're going to show this at the tell-all, and Sophie's going to grab this and run with it, and she's going to act like everything she's done doesn't matter because look at him. He loves this attention. And I told you guys when I saw it that it did not look good. For context, Sophie had been out of their house for months now. It was his birthday. She did not spend it with him, so he decided to go back to his hometown to go out clubbing with his friends. And there was a thirst bucket bottle girl that could not let go of this man. She was pressed. And on one part, I hate this for him because it negates all of the amazing positive work that he has done in this tell-all. On that side, I hate that for him, but also just putting myself in a girlfriend's shoes, a wife's shoes, even though they're clearly long separated. Still, if I were to be his wife and I saw footage of my husband letting some woman cling on to him, kiss his face like that, I would be enraged. Sophie is pissed, but she's trying her best not to react in this moment. She does ask him though if he went back to the club to like get the girl's number. He said, yeah, I went back to the club, but I didn't get her digits. I went back by myself. And Sophie asks him a few times, like, did you get her details? Did you get her details? Did you get her details? He said, no, I didn't get it. And then Sophie's like, I've seen that girl on your Instagram. Rob is like, well, she found me on Instagram. I didn't look for her. She found me and like, we had like a light conversation, nothing to it. And Sophie's like, see, you're a liar because you said you didn't get her details. And he's like, I didn't. Like, you asked me if I collected her details. I didn't. Know that someone would listen to that and be like, oh, well, he admitted certain details. But didn't she do the same thing just now with her whole sexuality thing? So I understand setting a certain expectation in your relationship, but it needs to be upheld by both people. You were literally just caught in your own lie, and now you're going to berate him because he didn't give you the full scope of an interaction with someone. But you've done that a few times yourself. It's like she's constantly trying to trip him up in lies. She's trying to find a reason to make him the bad guy. If you don't want to forgive him, don't. Just don't. But this constant game of being like, well, see, you're a liar. And it's like, is he a liar? Then are you a liar? Like, what are we doing here? How old are we? They're like two high schoolers having the same fight over and over. They're like a broken record. I just don't appreciate the stupidity, and I can also see right through her BS. Depression is real, and I just don't appreciate her using it like as like a bargaining situation, like to deflect blame. She's like, well, I was dirty and crusty because I was depressed. That's real. People will not shower a few days. People won't clean up after themselves for a few days. But that's when you communicate with your partner. Because she says that this depression stems from her being an immigrant and being alone and being sad, and then highlights that this was also hard for Rob. Yes, this whole situation is hard. You're an immigrant without your family. It's hard for him because he's the sole breadwinner for your family. So just like you are alone at home, he's without you when he has to work an ungodly amount of hours to support both of you. It's hard for me to empathize with her because this is part of the growing pains that you sign up for when you sign up for this visa. You're not special. You're not the only person that has gone through this. Everyone that goes through the visa goes through this motion. And that's when you're supposed to find solace within each other and help each other get out of that. But instead, you left him to deal with that by himself. So how am I supposed to feel bad for you in this moment where you had people taking care of you? You had people uplifting you. And he's by himself, and he has now left his support system in California to start over with you in Texas, and you left him. How am I supposed to feel bad for you? And it's so hard to watch because even though he says that he wants to work at it, you can tell that like this whole process has like made him a little detached from it. And she is like, I don't want to let go of Rob, but also looks so checked out from it, you know? And you just know that they're going to work it out on the last resort only to not end up together. Because Sophie mentions that they've tried everything, which we have not seen. But she says that they've tried everything except therapy. So they're going to have those bogus therapists at the last resort go round and round with the same thing. And so this segment ends and everyone starts walking off. And all of a sudden, Rob and Sophie are still seated, and the mousy, sad act is gone because she starts going in on Rob.
You have shown your true colors, and you're very, very fake and calculated.
This is actually who I've been to you for over a year and a half. This is who I've been to you for over a year and a half. And,
I can
and
show
the problem
you who
is
you've been
you
to
don't
me.
care.
You've been a
You don't be it. I have not. I was an ass 2 years ago, and that is not who I've been to you.
Doesn't matter. If you killed someone and you're a half girl, you're no longer a murderer.
I didn't kill anyone, Sophie.
It's a dramatic
I did not kill anyone.
example of it doesn't take away what you did just because it wasn't now.
But the effort since
the
should.
effort is nothing. The
All right,
effort
then,
is
why do you
nada.
even keep talking to me?
Effort is nil.
All right, then, leave me alone,
The effort
then.
is literally
Then leave me
non-existent.
alone.
You leave me alone.
All
You're the one not leaving me alone.
Why are you still talking to me?
Fine. Leave me alone.
That's why I say, like, there's no innocent party in this. She wanted sympathy. She put up the waterworks. But she can be real nasty. And again, they're a broken record. And I love that she says that Rob is the one trying to deflect. And I'm like, the hypocrisy here is loud. See them off in the break room. Rob is telling his side to like a group of people, and then she's telling her side to like Jasmine and Thais. And she's so fake because she's like, I didn't like Jasmine before this, but now that Jasmine is on her side, she's like all of a sudden besties. So the last segment is of everyone at the house and what a shit show it is. First of all, Rob and Sophie are still on their way to the house. So the people at the house are like, let's check the toilet to see if she flushed, see if what Rob is saying is true. And so this group of adults take a field trip to Sophie's bathroom, which the visual alone is hilarious. But it turns out that it looks like Rob was the last person to use the bathroom, so it was flushed, and they think that it was him because the seat was up. So that happened. I'm guessing Angela and Michael are at a hotel. At this point, I was like, did they leave for good? Because there's no trace of them. Little Ed suggests that they all go to the hot tub. You guys, I hate hot tubs. I think they're so unhygienic. I don't want to be in a soup with a bunch of strangers, especially not little Edward. And when we see them there, I don't understand how Liz could accept being in such close proximity to this man, because this hot tub isn't big at all. Thais&Patrick join in, and Ed is like, Thais, do you have cute sisters? And Liz makes a face, and Thais is like, no. And Ed thinks that Thais is lying, and Patrick is like, no, Thais doesn't have sisters. And so at the hot tub, they switch to talking about the John situation, and then they pan to the house, and in comes John with a bunch of beers. John is not joining the hot tub, though. He's not about it. But then we see Rob pass him and go straight to the hot tub. And at this point, you guys, I am nauseous because there are just so many people in this hot tub. The more people keep entering the hot tub, the closer Ed is getting to Liz. And so now Sophie's also in the hot tub, and this leads to Thais approaching little Edward about the fact that he just feels too comfortable coming at women. And a few words are exchanged, and Ed loves to deflect and say that people don't have his back, so he claps back, and he refers to them as mother effers, and Thais did not like that, and she starts flashing at him. It all happened so fast. I was like, does this make sense at all?
Tell him, look, man, don't come into my house.
What about have my husband to support me?
You need to wear the pants in the family.
Why you always come after a woman, huh?
Hey, oh my God, look at that face. What is, look, okay.
When I tried to defend her, you told me to grow up. I didn't say to you.
You know what? You are fake, talking behind people's back and not say being fake.
Did one of you mother come to my defense? Not one of you.
You are mother. You are.
I was the only one.
Honestly, don't even know really what they were fighting about. I just remember Big Ed telling Thais to like man up, something like that. And Patrick didn't like it. It was a whole thing. It was so stupid. But Patrick and Thais exit the hot tub and head to the house, which transitions straight into where John is. And Kobe tries to hold some sort of like family therapy. So long story short, John is like, I'm willing to show respect, and he goes and gives her a hug. Thais still has like her nose stuck up, but she's like, I'm willing to work at it with John. Whatever. At this point, You do or you don't. He's gonna be in your life. Might as well make a friend. I don't foresee them being besties. I just think that they should be far more amicable because he's not going anywhere. Back at the hot tub, everyone is telling Sophie that they think that Kay is overstepping big time and that she's actually sabotaging the relationship. She's a broken record talking about all the things that Rob did in the past. And again, it has nothing to do with the present. And these two have a yelling match in the hot tub. And Liz, Ashley, and Ed are like... And it looks like it's going to continue into next week. So we're going to have more Rob and Sophie. And, you know, in this episode, they were in the same couch. Next episode, they have to have them in individual chairs. I am honestly so exhausted with them. Also next week, we're going to see Michael and Angela return. So they didn't go home. And it looks heated because it looks like Kobe is standing up for his boy. And that explains why Angela has been talking so much mess about Kobe on her TikToks. Because Kobe gave her the business. He's like, this is not okay. You're an animal. But yeah, this tell-all wasn't as disturbing as the last. Still just as annoying, but I could stomach it a little more. I would love to know your thoughts on part 3. Let me know in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.